The staircase collapsed with a soul-shattering crash, and amidst the burning debris, a crippled dog shielded a stuffed teddy bear, a symbol of everything sacred in that home. But to understand how we reached this moment of absolute courage, we need to go back in time, when Buddy was just another forgotten dog at the city animal shelter. For 3 years, 8 months, and 17 days, Buddy occupied the same corner in Kennel 12. He was a medium-sized dog with golden fur that had once been bright, now dulled by time and sadness. His right hind leg had been amputated after a childhood accident, and he walked with a peculiar gait that some found amusing, others embarrassing. Children visiting the shelter on Sundays would pass his kennel with a look of pity mixed with discomfort. "He's defective," a mother would whisper to her young son who reached out his hand through the bars. "Let's see the other dogs, dear." And they would move on, leaving Buddy with that weary look that seemed to carry all the world's rejections. The shelter staff cared for him, but they acknowledged the cruel reality: dogs with disabilities rarely found homes. "Buddy is gentle, obedient, loving," Mariana, the veterinarian, would say whenever someone showed any interest. "He just needs a chance." But people wanted perfection, not opportunities. Time passed as it does for those who wait too slowly. Buddy saw dozens of other dogs arrive and leave, each adoption a small stab in his canine heart. He had developed a melancholic routine, waking up early, observing the activity, eating unenthusiastically, sleeping a lot. His eyes had lost the typical sparkle of dogs, replaced by a resignation that broke the heart of anyone who truly observed him. It was on a rainy April afternoon that Clara first appeared at the shelter, a widow for 6 months, mother of 2 young children, Peter, 7 years old, and Lily, 5. She had moved to an old house in the countryside, seeking a fresh start far from the painful memories of the city. The house was large, surrounded by an overgrown garden that needed tending, and the silence sometimes became deafening. "I've come looking for a companion for the children," she told Mariana, walking slowly between the kennels. Peter and Lily ran ahead, excited by all the barking and jumping dogs. Clara, however, moved with the calm of someone who had learned to see beyond appearances. When she reached Kennel 12, something made her stop. Buddy was lying in his corner, not barking like the others, just watching. His eyes met Clara's, and she saw something that deeply touched her. It wasn't despair or pleading, but a quiet dignity, a respectful request for a second chance. "And this one?" Clara asked, crouching down in front of the kennel. Mariana hesitated. "This is Buddy. He's been here a long time. He had his leg amputated, but it doesn't stop him from anything. He's the most gentle and loyal dog we have, but people want perfection," Clara finished, understanding immediately. "I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for a heart." Buddy approached slowly, his characteristic gait showing neither haste nor anxiety. When he reached the bars, he sat down elegantly and offered his paw, the only hind leg he had left, in a gesture that seemed to say, "Allow me to properly introduce myself." Peter and Lily, who had rushed back, stopped when they saw the dog. "Mommy, what happened to his paw?" Lily asked with the innocent curiosity of children. "Sometimes life takes things away from us," Clara replied, stroking Buddy's head through the bars, "but that doesn't make us any less special. Sometimes it makes us stronger." "He seems sad," Peter observed. "Or maybe just tired of waiting," said Clara. "Buddy, would you like to come home with us?" The dog tilted his head, as if perfectly understanding the question. His tail began a timid movement, almost hesitant, as if he didn't want to allow himself too much hope. A week later, Buddy set foot for the first time in the overgrown garden of the old house. He didn't run or explore with the typical euphoria of dogs in new territory. Instead, he walked methodically, sniffing every corner, every tree, every stone, as if memorizing a map that would be important later. The house had 2 floors, long hallways with creaking floors, and a smell of history imbued in the walls. Buddy chose his post, a rug in the hallway, between Clara's room and the children's rooms. There, he could hear everyone and be present if they needed him. In the first few days, he was cautious. He obeyed all commands, ate his food without haste, and observed the family's routine, like a diligent student learning a new subject. Gradually, he integrated himself subtly but significantly. When Peter came home from school burdened with low grades or fights with classmates, he found Buddy waiting on the porch, ready to listen to his complaints without judgment. When Lily woke up in the middle of the night with nightmares about her dad, who wouldn't be coming back, she found Buddy's furry muzzle near her bed, offering silent comfort. And Clara, who sometimes felt overwhelmed by the weight of raising two children alone in a strange place, discovered in Buddy a companion who didn't demand explanations or consolation, but simply offered constant presence. "You know, Buddy," she would say some nights, when she finished tidying the house and sat on the porch with a cup of tea, "sometimes I think you understand us better than we understand ourselves." Buddy would lie at her feet, always on his right side, instinctively compensating for his physical limitation, to be more stable and present. Months passed, turning caution into confidence, presence into belonging. Buddy developed small rituals that became sacred in the family routine: walking Peter to the school gate, waiting for Lily to finish breakfast before heading to the garden, staying by Clara's side when she worked from home, handling the accounts for local small businesses. His physical disability was never treated as a limitation. Buddy had learned to compensate for the missing paw with impressive skill, climbing stairs with determination, running through the garden at his own pace, but efficiently, demonstrating that strength is not only measured by the body's integrity, but by the greatness of spirit. Winter arrived early that year, bringing constant rain and cold nights that made the old house groan under strong winds. It was December, and Clara had decided they would spend their first Christmas without her husband right there, creating new traditions that could heal old wounds. Buddy, who had observed the preparations with growing interest, seemed to understand the importance of those moments. He helped by carrying small objects in his mouth, organized his own toys, as if preparing gifts, and stayed closer to the children, as if he sensed they needed extra protection during those emotionally charged days. On the night of December 23rd, as the rain drummed on the roof and the wind shook the garden trees, the family gathered in the living room for a session of Christmas movies. Peter had chosen his favorite plush bear, a gift from his father on his last birthday, and brought it to watch along. Lily fell asleep on the couch, and Clara carried her to bed, followed by Peter, who climbed the stairs clutching the bear. "Good night, Buddy," Peter said, petting the dog's head before entering the room. "Thank you for taking care of us." Buddy remained in his usual spot, but something felt different that night. Maybe it was the strange smell that was starting to seep through the walls, or an instinctive unease that only animals can detect. He got up a few times, circled the house, returned to his place, lay down, got up again. Around 2 in the morning, when everyone was sleeping soundly, and the rain had turned into a light drizzle, the old electrical wiring in the living room, overloaded by the Christmas decorations and excessive humidity, short-circuited. The first sparks were small, almost imperceptible. Then it turned into a heat source among the wires embedded in the wall. Within minutes, the curtains caught fire. The old fabric quickly consumed itself, and the flames spread to the furniture. Rugs and wood walls dried out by time. The fire crackled low, stealthily, producing more smoke than noise. The acrid smell began to seep into the upper rooms, but it wasn't yet strong enough to wake the human inhabitants of the house. But Buddy sensed it. His keen senses picked up the danger long before anyone could notice it. He leaped up, his heart racing, and began to sniff intensely. The smell of smoke was coming from downstairs. His pupils dilated as he understood the gravity of the situation. Without hesitation, despite his physical limitation, Buddy began to move through the house with a determination that transcended his normal capabilities. First, he tried to wake Clara, scratching at her bedroom door and emitting low, urgent sounds. As she didn't wake up immediately, he gathered all his strength and threw himself against the door until he managed to open it. Clara was sleeping soundly, exhausted from the Christmas preparations and work. Buddy jumped onto the bed with difficulty, using his 3 paws to propel himself, and began to bark directly in her face, something he had never done before. His behavior was so unusual that Clara woke up startled. Buddy, what? She stopped mid-sentence as the smell of smoke filled her nostrils. Oh my God! Without losing a second, Clara ran to the children's rooms. Peter woke up coughing, confused and scared. Lily had to be carried, still sleepy. Buddy accompanied them, descending the stairs with impressive speed for a three-legged dog, barking to guide them towards the back door, away from the fire. Everybody out, now, Clara yelled, carrying Lily in her arms and pulling Peter by the hand. The smoke was getting thick, and the flames were already illuminating the living room windows. Outside, under the light drizzle and the cold of the early morning, Clara hugged her children and did a quick mental count. Peter, Lily, herself. Where was Buddy? Her eyes turned to the house, where the living room windows now glowed with orange light. Buddy wasn't with them. Buddy, she yelled, but the dog didn't appear. Buddy, it was Peter who understood first. My teddy bear, he exclaimed, tears starting to flow. I forgot my teddy bear in the room. Clara felt her heart break when she saw, through the second-floor windows, a shadow moving with difficulty through the upper corridor. Buddy had gone back inside the house. The dog climbed the stairs with redoubled effort, coughing because of the intensifying smoke, but determined to fulfill a mission that only his loyal heart completely understood. In Peter's room, he found the plush bear, lying next to the bed. Gently, he picked it up with his mouth, and started his way back, but the fire had spread faster than he had calculated. The old wooden stairs began to give way under the intense heat. Buddy knew he wouldn't be able to get down that way, so he made the only possible decision: he would protect the teddy bear to the end. He lay down on top of the toy at the top of the stairs, covering it with his body, and waited. If he couldn't save the object, he would at least ensure that it wouldn't be destroyed by the fire. It was his last act of love for the family that had given him a second chance. The staircase collapsed with a bang that echoed through the early morning. Firefighters arrived 15 minutes later, alerted by neighbors who had seen the flames. The team's commander, a veteran of countless fires, still remembers the scene as one of the most impactful of his career. Amidst the smoldering rubble of the staircase, a golden retriever, covered in soot and injuries, was shielding a small teddy bear with its body. Jesus Christ, the youngest firefighter muttered. He went back for the toy. Buddy was conscious but severely injured. Second-degree burns on his paws, smoke inhalation, some cuts from the debris, but his eyes still shone with that characteristic dignity. When they saw the firefighters approaching, he managed a weak wag of his tail, clearly saying, "I did it. I protected what was important." The race to the veterinary hospital was dramatic. Lily drove in tears, Peter held the carrier box whispering words of encouragement, and Mariana hummed softly the song Buddy loved most. In Peter's hands, the teddy bear, miraculously intact under the canine's protection. Dr. Robert, the on-call veterinarian, worked for 6 hours to stabilize Buddy. "He's a fighter," he told the family, who had been waiting in the waiting room since dawn, "but he'll need a lot of time to recover. And he'll probably have some respiratory sequelae." "Doctor," said Lily, holding her children's hands, "do everything that's necessary. Buddy is part of our family." During the 2 weeks Buddy spent hospitalized, the story spread through the small town like wildfire. The rejected dog, who had become a hero, touched hearts that had long been untouched by gestures of unconditional love. Children from Peter's school made drawings of Buddy to decorate the veterinary hospital. Adults who had never been interested in animals showed up to ask about his condition. The local newspaper published a front-page story, "Four-pawed hero, well, three-pawed hero saves family." But it was the gesture of a journalist from the capital that transformed the local story into a national phenomenon. Monica Ferreira, a reporter specializing in human interest stories, read the local newspaper article and immediately recognized the emotional potential of the narrative. "This isn't just the story of a heroic dog," she told her editor. "It's a story about second chances, about how what society rejects can be exactly what we need most. It's a metaphor for the human condition itself. The television report aired on a Sunday night, prime time. The images of Buddy recovering in the hospital, interspersed with emotional testimonies from Lily and the children, created an emotional impact that surprised even the most experienced media professionals. Buddy taught us that heroism has nothing to do with physical perfection, Lily said during the interview, her words echoing the profound transformation the whole family had experienced. He showed us that courage is about love, not about strength. The phone call that changed everything came the following Tuesday. It was from a documentary producer from São Paulo, interested in turning Buddy's story into a feature film. Stories like this need to be told, he said. The world needs to remember what really matters. But Lily gently refused. Buddy doesn't need to be famous, she explained. He already got what he wanted most, a home where he is loved. The rest is just a consequence. Still, the consequences were extraordinary. Donations to the municipal shelter increased by 400%. Adoptions of animals with disabilities tripled, not only in the city, but throughout the region. Buddy had inadvertently started a silent revolution in how people saw value and beauty. When he finally returned home, 2 weeks after the fire, Buddy was welcomed as he deserved. Neighbors gathered in the street, children held signs with his name, and even people Lily didn't know showed up to applaud the three-legged hero. The house had been rebuilt, but Lily made sure to keep some marks of Buddy's heroic night. Where the old staircase was, she had a safer metal one installed. On the entrance wall, she placed a framed photo of Buddy with the teddy bear, accompanied by a phrase she embroidered herself: "What the world rejected saved us." In the months that followed, the family's routine reorganized around the special care Buddy now needed. His respiratory sequelae required daily medication and controlled exercises, but his spirit remained unchanged. If before he was docile and observant, now he carried an even deeper serenity, as if he had completely understood his purpose in the world. Peter developed an even more special relationship with Buddy after the incident. "He saved my teddy bear because he knew I needed it," said the boy, who now shared his bed with both the toy and the dog every night. Mariana, in turn, took on the responsibility of helping with Buddy's medication, turning the ritual into moments of affection and conversation. Lily discovered that the experience had changed not only her perspective on Buddy, but on life itself. "I learned that strength is not about never falling," she wrote in her diary a few months later. "Strength is about getting up even when you only have 3 legs to stand on." Buddy's story began to spread beyond national borders when an American documentary filmmaker, specializing in overcoming stories, learned about the case through social media. "Dog Hero Saves Family and Teddy Bear" became a worldwide trend, inspiring thousands of people to reconsider their perspectives on disability, value, and heroism. But for those who really knew Buddy, fame was just background noise. What really mattered happened in the small, everyday scenes. Buddy patiently waiting while Peter did his homework, offering silent comfort when Mariana missed her father, remaining beside Lily as she faced the challenges of rebuilding a life after loss. A year after the fire, Clara received an unexpected call. It was Mariana, the veterinarian from the shelter where Buddy had spent so many years forgotten. "Clara," she said, her voice choked with emotion, "I need to tell you something. Since Buddy's story became known, we haven't had any disabled dogs waiting for adoption. People have started specifically looking for them." Buddy completely changed people's perceptions. This information touched Clara in a way she hadn't anticipated. Buddy hadn't just saved her family that December night. He had saved hundreds of other animals who, like him, were waiting for a second chance. "You know what strikes me most," Clara told Buddy that night, as he settled into his favorite spot on the porch. You never tried to be a hero, you just were yourself, with all the love you had to give, and that was more powerful than any physical strength could be. Buddy looked at her with those golden eyes that had once pleaded for a chance, now shining with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had fulfilled their life's mission. His tail thumped gently against the floor, and he settled down to sleep, ever vigilant, ever ready to protect those he loved. If you've been moved by stories like this, which show how love and loyalty can transform lives, consider subscribing to our channel to continue following touching stories that celebrate the purest bonds between humans and animals, and how these relationships teach us about hope, courage, and second chances. The transformation didn't stop there. 2 years after the fire, Clara was invited to speak at conferences on responsible adoption and overcoming adversity. She always took Buddy with her, not as a mascot, but as a co-author of a story that continued to inspire people around the world. Buddy taught me that physical limitations don't define the capability of the heart, she would tell moved audiences. He showed me that sometimes what we consider imperfect is exactly what we need to complete us. During one of these talks, an 8-year-old child raised their hand during the conda. Does Buddy get sad because he only has 3 legs? They asked with the typical honesty of children. Clara looked at Buddy, who was lying calmly beside the pulpit, and smiled. You know, I think Buddy never wasted time lamenting what he didn't have. He was always too busy being grateful for what he did have. A family that loves him, a home where he's cherished, and the opportunity to show every day that heroes come in all shapes and sizes. The audience erupted in applause, but Buddy remained serene, as if understanding that true heroism lay precisely in that tranquility, in that self-acceptance, in that capacity to love unconditionally. Today, 5 years after that December night, Buddy is showing some signs of old age and the aftermath of the fire, but his gaze retains the same serene dignity as always. His steps are slower, his breathing sometimes labored, but his presence continues to be the emotional anchor of the family. Peter, now 12, often tells his friends that Buddy is his greatest example of courage. He taught me that being courageous isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right, even when you are afraid. Lily, 10, has developed a passion for veterinary medicine, inspired by the care Buddy received and how he transformed his own adversity into purpose. Clara, who found in her experience with Buddy the strength to rebuild not only her home, but her own identity as a single mother, often reflects on how a rejected dog became the heart of a rebuilt family. Buddy taught us that family isn't about perfection. She often says, it's about being present, about protecting each other, about loving despite scars and limitations. The rebuilt house has become an informal pilgrimage site for people who know Buddy's story. It's not uncommon for family to show up at the gate, bringing rescued or newly adopted dogs, seeking inspiration from the journey of overcoming adversity that began there. Clara always welcomes them with hospitality, and Buddy, despite his age, makes a point of greeting each canine visitor with the courtesy befitting a goodwill ambassador. During one of these visits, an elderly lady arrived with a German Shepherd dog with only one front leg. I came here because I heard about Buddy, she explained, tears in her eyes. My Max was hit by a car last month, and I was thinking about, well, you know, I thought he would be unhappy like that. Clara invited her in, and Buddy, with the quiet wisdom he had developed over the years, approached Max and simply lay down beside him. The 2 dogs remained like that for a long time, a silent communication flowing between them, a transmission of strength and acceptance that no human words could express. Max will be fine, Clara said, watching the interaction. He has you, who loves him, and now he knows he's not alone in this journey. When the lady and Max left hours later, There was a lightness in their steps that wasn't present on arrival. Buddy accompanied them to the gate, his characteristic gait, now a symbol of dignity and motion, a living lesson that differences are not deficiencies, but unique characteristics that make each journey special. The picture in the entryway of the house, with the phrase, "What the world rejected, saved us," became more than just decoration. It transformed into a daily reminder of a fundamental truth that Buddy taught, that family value is not measured by external standards, but by the ability to love, protect, and be present for those who matter. On winter nights, when rain patters against the windows of their rebuilt home, Clara sometimes finds herself watching Buddy sleep peacefully in his usual spot. His chest rises and falls with a slightly labored, but steady breath. His paws occasionally twitch in dreams she hopes are happy, and his gray muzzle rests with the tranquility of one who knows they have fulfilled their life's mission with honor. "Thank you, Buddy," she whispers on these nights, knowing he can't hear her, but certain that, somehow, he knows. "Thank you for teaching us that heroes don't need capes or superpower. Sometimes, they just have 3 paws, a heart too big for their chest, and enough love to save not just a family, but an entire community of forgotten souls." And Buddy remains there, the silent guardian of a family that has learned to define strength not by the absence of limitations, but by the presence of unconditional love. Each day he wakes is a new chapter in a story that began with rejection and transformed into redemption, born in the despair of a shelter and blossomed in the boundless gratitude of a home where everyone, regardless of how many paws they have, is valued exactly as they are. This is Buddy's story, the dog nobody wanted, who became exactly what everyone needed. A reminder that miracles don't always come wrapped in perfection, but often arrive walking differently, looking with tired eyes, carrying visible scars, but bearing in their chest a heart so big it's capable of saving not just lives, but entire souls. And in the entryway of that house, the picture remains, a silent witness to a truth that changed a family and inspired a world. What the world rejected, saved us.